News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:03. I'm Bill Walter with this news update. News brought to you by Roof Rescue. Law enforcement is investigating after skeletal remains were found in a northern Utah bird refuge on Saturday morning. The remains were reportedly discovered at about 10:45 a.m. in the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge on the northwest side of Willard Bay. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office responded to the scene and confirmed that the remains were human. Officials with the Utah State Medical Examiner's Office and Weber Metro CSI also responded to process the area and collect evidence. Investigators are still working to identify the remains. Additional information was not immediately provided. KBNU News Time is 4:04. KBNU weather for tonight becoming mostly clear overnight. Low temperature in the low 30s, around 31 degrees, and then sunny upper 50s, around 57. Sunny and low 60s on Wednesday. Right now, with mostly cloudy skies, it's 47 at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. For the best value in today's hearing aid technology, see Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Roof Rescue is your local roofing specialist, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry no matter the weather. Their team of experienced roofers is here to serve you, providing top quality service at affordable prices. From minor repairs to complete roof replacements, they've got you covered. Remember, your roof is your first line of defense in protecting your family from the elements. So don't wait until the next storm to discover your roof problems. Call Roof Rescue today at 435-999-4268. They're your trusted local roofing experts, here to keep your home safe and dry. Roof Rescue, celebrating 10 years of providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. Senator Chris Wilson, who represents the majority of Cache County for District 2, dropped into KBNU's For the People program last week. During his visit, he talked water and funding for a groundwater assessment in Cache County.
This was a funding request of around $567,000. And let me tell you a little bit how that got started. Last March, I was asked to go to Israel with a water delegation. And Casey Snyder, our representative for the south end of the valley, was the state or the House representative, and I was asked to be the Senate representative on this to Israel. So very, very amazing. We went with a great delegation.
The trip was to investigate how that country that sits in a desert area is able to do so well with the water they have. Wilson said Israel knows where every drop of water is in that country, whether it's subsurface or above ground.
And I was talking, our state water engineer, Teresa Williamson, was on that trip. And I went up to her and I said, okay, Teresa, where are we at with Cache Valley? Do we know what's in our aquifers? Do we know what's in our groundwater? And she said, and she did a little bit of study. She did a tremendous job this summer of putting together a proposal that we could try and see. Because the last time they did this was in the 90s. Now, some people, she told me it was 92 last time they did it. I've seen some reports. The Tribune did an article on this, and they said it was in 96. Anyway, it's been a while.
He said with the new technologies available, it's time to see where the water is. The project is a collaboration with Utah State University, University of Utah, and the U.S. Geological Survey. Salt Lake City police officers arrested a 22-year-old man Sunday morning after he reportedly crashed his truck into two parked cars, destroying a neighbor's fence before fleeing on foot. Officers were dispatched just after 5:45 a.m. on reports of a traffic collision. According to authorities, the suspect, identified as Jose Ignacio Ramirez Morales, first collided with a parked Acura while driving southbound, propelling that vehicle into a neighboring yard. Instead of stopping, officers said Ramirez Morales reversed direction and headed northbound, striking another parked SUV in the process. A neighbor who heard the initial crash began following him in his own vehicle. Authorities said the chase came to an abrupt stop when Ramirez Morales crashed through a fence and into another yard just a few feet from the second collision. Abandoning his vehicle, he attempted to flee on foot but was soon located by officers who initiated a pursuit. Despite attempts to avoid police, Ramirez Morales was eventually taken into custody after resisting arrest. Officers later discovered that he was driving on a suspended license and located evidence of alcohol inside his vehicle. The parked cars involved in the crashes were unoccupied at the time. Ramirez Morales was booked into the Salt Lake County Metro Jail on multiple charges, including failing to comply with police commands, resisting arrest, and driving under the influence while having a suspended license. KVNU News Time is 4:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The newsmakers, the stories. Get it all here. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
You may not be ready for spring cleanup, but your trees are. Hi, this is Chelsea with Whole Tree Care. Call now because we are starting to get real busy. Let our guys come trim your trees and shrubs, and I can assure you, when the weather warms up and your trees leaf out, you'll love the way they look. Also, if any of your trees suffered winter damage from heavy snow or wind, let us come clean it up. Call 760-6587. Call now while visibility is perfect. Whole Tree Care, HULL Tree Care, 760-6587.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Dr. Danes for an appointment at 753-HERE and let him show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Hey, I'm ABC's Daria Albinger. Gather up your W-2s and your 1099s because it's that time of year again. The tax filing deadline is right around the corner. We've got you covered every step of the way, from getting organized to filing to receiving your refund. We'll bring you advice from accountants, industry insiders, and yes, even the IRS. So join me for tax tips from ABC News now through the filing deadline, right here.
Weekday mornings at 9:50 on News Talk KVNU.
I am one of over 40 million Americans with migraine. A migraine is not just a headache. A migraine attack can last for hours or even days, often with sensitivity to lights and sounds or nausea and vomiting. Thankfully, there is help for migraine. Learn more at headachemigraine.org. Now is the perfect time to find out if what you have may be migraine. Visit headachemigraine.org, sponsored by the Coalition for Headache and Migraine Patients.
I spent a couple of minutes online to help pay for college.
A quick visit online made getting this federal job possible.
I logged in to ease my path to citizenship.
If you're a man age 18 to 25, go to sss.gov to register with the Selective Service System. It's your civic duty, and it helps secure access to lifelong benefits.
I registered because, hey, it's what you do.
Go to sss.gov and register today. It's the law.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVN News for the People. It is Monday, April 1st. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Appreciate everyone joining us today, and I'm excited to kick off the show today with a very special guest in the studio. But hold on. Coming up in hour 2, we're going to talk about a really unique article that was written by a journalist at the Deseret News asking every candidate for Attorney General one question. I love campaign interviews like this, and it is the question, honestly, for Attorney General candidates. Basically, cleaning up the office. What does that mean? And restoring the pride or faith in the office. Really, really fascinating article. We'll talk about that. Also, Beyonce released her album, and we're going to talk about some of the country world's reaction to Beyonce's new, basically, country album, sort of. Country themed, we'll put it that way. Some of it not so great, but some of it really fascinating. And there is a political angle to this as well that Beyonce herself kind of threw out today. So we'll talk about that in hour 2. Here in hour 1, we're kicking things off with our regular monthly visit with Anna McEntire of the, I'm going to get this right one time, cross your fingers, the Janet S. Quinney.
Janet Quinney.
Janet Quinney,
Lawson.
that's right. Oh,
Janet Quinney Lawson.
Janet Quinney Lawson. The S is from a different school. Janet Quinney Lawson School of Land, Water, and Air at Utah State University. And this has been just fascinating to spend the last several months, once a month, checking in with all of you. Brian Steed was here last month. We talked about the legislative session, did a great recap. That's available in our podcast if you'd like to hear that. He basically went through every water-related bill and gave it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or here's where we took a good baby step, here's where we achieved something big. It was fascinating. And since that has happened, the school has hosted their big spring runoff conference, an annual event that even before this became such a focus for the governor and the legislature was the premier event on water in Utah in general, from Bear Lake to the Colorado River and where it intersects with Utah's water supplies to our Bear River region and more. This spring runoff conference was the place to be. And again, this year it was. Everyone from state lawmakers, the governor came and spoke and talked about the future of water policy in Utah. Experts and researchers from Utah State University presented on various different topics. And Anna, you're here to recap the event for us. It was a 2-day event, right?
Yes, and I can't, we at the Institute can't take full credit for this. We came in as helpers. We came in to help facilitate the conference itself. It's one that's been going on at Utah State since long before the Institute existed, since 2004, 2005.
I didn't know that. I knew it had been a while. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
So we worked with the conference organizers now that we were here to be able to bring in some new partnerships. And one of them that just happened while we were getting ready in the organization stages is we have one faculty member, Beth Nielsen. She is at the Utah Water Research Laboratory at Utah State and also with the Cache Water District. And she brought to us and said, listen, we've got 2 really important Northern Utah water meetings at the same time. We've got Spring Runoff, which is usually a university event where we share a lot of research, and we also have public people come in and talk about policy related to water. And there's also the Northern Utah Water Users Conference, which is more people who are users of water. It's our ag producers here in the valley. We have lots of the same...
canal companies, for example, they always send representatives.
We have a lot of the same interests. We have lots of the same people that we want to hear from. And so it was Beth who came to us and said, listen, I think that this should be a combined conference. And so it was such a fun partnership. We worked with Nate Doggs, who's the manager of the Cache Water District, and Aaron Rivers, who's the organizer on the USU side, and worked to figure out a conference that worked both for our USU researchers and for our water producers in northern Utah. And it was a really, really fun and productive partnership to bring these 2 groups together for the first time. We really enjoyed the opportunity, but that helped us bring some people that we might not otherwise have gotten who knew that they'd be able to reach both of those audiences. So, and bring these people up that have statewide purview, but have them come here to talk specifically about Northern Utah issues or from a Northern Utah perspective, which is really useful.
What a unique experience. I mentioned to you, and I was disappointed. I actually registered for this, and
I saw your name.
I planned to try and make it both days. There was an unexpected event with a family friend that kept me away. I was really disappointed because I don't know when else you would get these people in these rooms. You know, we're talking water researchers. We're talking, as we mentioned, representatives of canal companies. We're talking agricultural farmers, people who have been doing that for generations. Sometimes policymakers, lawmakers, the governor. You've got, just looking through when I looked through the conference program, I thought, this is, if you wanted a picture of where we're at and where we could be in a bad way, where we could be in a good way, what we need to do to, go the good way. This is it. This is everyone involved almost, right?
It is.
To a large extent.
The real key to this is we have lots of great people in all of these arenas doing great work, but the best way to make the best use of what we're doing is to make sure we're talking to each other. We had one of our researchers there, a master's student, and her whole master's thesis is on understanding what the attitudes are of ag producers in northern Utah. So she was able to set up a table there and talk with people, understand their opinions, and use that as a basis for some more of her own understanding, her work. We had a whole session on researchers who are doing work on irrigation studies and talking about flow dynamics of our rivers that we have here in northern Utah, which are so much more complicated than we give them credit for.
Sure.
When I look at a river, I think it's just like a straightforward channel. Water starts at one place, you have some other inlets, and it just comes out at the Great Salt Lake. But we lose water in our rivers, and then we gain it back in, and sometimes
at different points, right?
At different points, and sometimes it's through the way that we irrigate, and then you get return flows, or it can be with sinks and springs. Part of the work that Senator Wilson has been helping to get funded is to better be able to understand that. And we have our researchers that have been sharing what they're finding out and the work that they're doing to get a better handle on that. And that matters to all of us. It matters to those of us who have houses who want to have enough water to use, and especially it matters to those who are growing crops here and have water rights.
It was really funny for us last week because there's a who deserves more credit competition going on between State Senator Chris Wilson and United States Congressman Blake Moore. We had them both on the show last week. I didn't plan this, but I brought water up and water funding for research and study in two different ways because they both very independently been working on getting some money for water study in Utah, groundwater and more. And State Senator Wilson said, Chris Wilson said, what Blake Moore's working on is far bigger, far more important. Congressman Blake Moore said, oh no, what Senator Wilson is doing is really the most important thing. But the takeaway for me, and I hope for our listeners, is that everyone's paying attention right now. And this is a good example of, I think, what the school, the institute that you work with, what USU at large has to bring to the table to better inform public policy here in Utah. This is one that I was going to not miss whatsoever. A history lesson from Connolly Baldwin of PacifiCorp, and an engineer and hydrologist for a long time, if I remember right, from PacifiCorp, was going to actually give a history lesson on water management in our area. That's for a lot of people, they might see that and think, well, that would be interesting, but how does that apply? That's very much where we need to start understanding the future, right?
Yeah, both him and Don Barnett's presentations are just so critical to understand the water that we have here in northern Utah. It's a lot more complex than we give it credit for, both from a water rights perspective, knowing that the Bear River flows through 3 states 5 times, and we use a number of reservoirs. We have hydropower considerations, and so Connolly walked us through it. I was getting ready to speak right before that, so I was not listening as closely to him, but I had gotten
you were
that.
next, right?
I was next. But I got that presentation when Connolly took a bunch of our Bear Lake researchers up to Bear Lake, and instead of just having PowerPoint slides, he printed them out on big poster boards and took us to those locations and said, here's Stewart Dam, and here's where it fits in this whole hydrology picture. And then took us to the Lifton pumps. He let us go inside and see the pumps and really understand what the dynamics of the flow of that really critical juncture of the Bear River looks like. But the more that you understand that, the more you understand how critical our water resources here are here in northern Utah and how helpful it is to understand them.
And you were presenting next right after Connolly on the Bear Lake studies that we talked a little bit about previously, but are now, I mean, will there ever be a point where you can say, okay, the Bear Lake Studies project is done?
No,
I mean,
in fact, we've been chatting with
right?
Forestry, Fire, and State Lands on how to continue some of this work and have additional studies. But this was fun because I've been in contact with them since we started this, and we've talked about this a few times over the months. But I shared with this broader group about the program and how important we view the program is, just the power of having researchers from most, if not all, of our colleges at Utah State researching Bear Lake at the same time. But what I got to do is we had a breakout session as well as poster session where all of our researchers were asked to share where they're at in their projects right now. And for me, I hadn't caught up with them in a number of weeks. So to hear the progress of those studies, one thing that was really great is I'm one of those people, I am here for the warm weather. I'm waiting for the snow to melt. And such a big theme of the conference was, it's so great that we've got all of this snow. And look, it's snowing outside right now at the end of March. But
it's not melting too fast.
It's not melting too fast. But I was on the side with a number of our researchers who were just waiting for the snow to melt enough so that they can go up and finish their field work at Bear Lake. So there are a few people who are on my side.
I'm on your side with that. I cannot wait for the warmer end of spring and summer to come along. But it is, the state being, I think statewide, we're at 130% average snowpack. And I was worried that would lead to, the legislature kind of wandering a bit. Maybe the governor stops bringing it up so often. And that was encouraging to see the governor show up for this and speak.
We're hoping that it's an annual thing, but one of the great presentations that we also had was part of the namesake of Spring Runoff is that the honored speaker would be someone who can share what are the latest results of what we got in this last water year, because it's right about at that time when we know what our picture is going to be looking like. This is actually the 100th year of tracking water stats and snow stats up at Tony Grove. And so they did a little celebration of that, but they shared where the water hydrograph of where we're at, and we're just doing so well this year. It's not like last year, but we're up at the 70th percentile. We just crept up above that into that new territory in the past few days with the rain that we've been receiving this week. So it's been fun to track and see that we are in a good shape with water, but we can't take our foot off the gas when it comes to managing the resources that we have.
That was, and that showed up in a lot of the, just looking again at the speakers, the titles of their presentations, that theme was very much present, that, that things look great right now. We have a lot of opportunity to get this right, from the southern border to the northern, where we work with, down south, working with other states managing and planning for this. It was, did you have a chance to talk to conference attendees about what they were walking away with, what they felt was, the standout moment?
Yeah, well, one thing that's really interesting, we love these partnerships where we can bring new groups together, but that means that people hear different things. We're not a monolith.
Sure.
And I got to moderate a panel with members of the Great Salt Lake Strike Team, those USU researchers that were involved with it. And the job of the strike team is not to advocate for policy, but I asked them, if you could advocate for policy, what would it be? And not everyone agreed. And that's the whole point of bringing these same people into the room, is that we can share our opinions. And even if we don't have the same ideas on conservation or the same ideas on who should get, first rights to buy water when it becomes available, we need to be having more and more of those discussions. But
that's a great example of where, different interests might butt heads a bit, right?
Yeah, but I think the idea is the more that we talk to each other, the more common ground that we can find. And I think that's what resulted from this conference last week. That was
one attendee I had a chance to speak to said he walked away with something that, and this was a representative, a state lawmaker, Snyder said he walked away with he had a great understanding already, but even better understanding of what has, say, a farmer or even a large company working in agriculture hesitant about investing in new and more efficient watering or irrigation technology. And it's not just the cost, he said, for some of these larger companies. And he said that was eye-opening for him to pick that up, because so now he can go back and help craft better policy when it comes to the state's obvious interest in incentivizing, people making that switch. To me, that's what this is all about. Is it going to make it online anywhere, or parts of it?
Yeah, so we are working right now on collecting slide decks. We did not do a recording this year. That will be forthcoming, but we do have slide decks from many of our presentations,
nice.
Most of our researchers. We're working on getting those online, as well as reviewing feedback from the event to figure out what this should look like next year. All signs point to
ahead.
It will be a conference run by the Institute for Land, Water, and Air in the next in the next year. But we will we're going to figure out what we can do to continue to expand these conversations and partnerships to make them as worthwhile for as many people as possible. I would love, honestly, it would be fascinating to, I know a lot of resources and planning go into this. It'd be fascinating to see what happened if these even became, smaller, modular, different points of the year events and more to engage the public. But we've talked to that.
It would be interesting. That if we can help, we could easily fill a radio show with. We could fill a week of radio shows with the conference attendees and presenters you had.
We had
honestly just fascinating.
More than 80 different different presentations. About 65 of them were based on research, and then the others were like our policy keynotes. That is,
I say this every time, but it is so cool. This is right here in our own backyard. The resource that Utah State University presents itself as, not just for the public and things we can be exposed to on a random Friday night for the Science Unwrapped series, for example, but also seeing the way research at USU is informing public policy, bringing policymakers together with farmers, canal company representatives, water district members like Nathan Doggs. He spoke like 8 times during this.
Yeah,
I know.
He did.
Poor guy. He deserves it, though.
He also picked up all the catering on his own.
Oh, nice. It honestly just impressive lineup of guests, and so cool it's happening here. And I can't wait to see what next year brings, or even something before that if it's put together. But Anna McEntire of the, I'm going to get it right, Janet Quinney Institute of Land, Water, and Air.
So close.
Did you see that? Lawson, I left Lawson out.
It's a long title.
It's a long title. And my brain just, on Mondays especially. That's my excuse, at least.
I feel you.
You can access most of what we've discussed here yourself. See projects and publications, news events, learn about different programming and events they have coming up for the public and otherwise via the Institute's website. It's usu.edu/ILWA, Institute Land, Water, Air, ILWA, and I've linked to that on our Facebook page. And Anna, always a pleasure. I'm already looking forward to next month.
Me too. We've got fun things to share.
Oh, I'm excited.
Colorado River.
Yeah, that's the one. That is complex. Whew. Yeah, so we're going to dig into that. Mark your calendars. And stick around. More For the People to come after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KBNU News Time is 4:32, and the news is brought to you by U&I Furniture. The leader of an offshoot polygamous sect near the Utah-Arizona border has pleaded guilty to conspiring to transport underage girls across state lines in what authorities say was a scheme to orchestrate sexual acts involving children. Samuel Bateman also pleaded guilty to conspiring to commit kidnapping in a plan to free underage girls who had been taken from the sect and placed into state custody. Authorities say Bateman took more than 20 wives, including 10 underage girls. They say Bateman created a network spanning at least 4 states as he tried to start an offshoot of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The sect historically was in the neighboring communities of Hilldale, Utah, and Colorado City, Arizona. Utah Jazz general manager Justin Zanuck is set to have a kidney transplant Tuesday in a Salt Lake City hospital. Zanuck will receive a donor kidney after being diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease in October. Polycystic kidney disease is a genetic disorder that causes clusters of cysts to grow within kidneys. The surgery at University of Utah Hospital is expected to last from 2.5 to 3 hours. Zanuck is scheduled to be discharged 3 days after the surgery. And Harrison Barnes scored 24 points and keyed a big third-quarter run for Sacramento that carried the Kings to a 127-106 victory over the visiting Utah Jazz. Keegan Murray scored 25 points to lead the Kings. De'Aaron Fox had 24 points and 12 assists as well. For the Jazz, Bryce Sensabaugh and Colin Sexton each scored 22 points. Utah has lost now 9 straight games. KBNU News Time is 4:35.
Furniture and mattress stores come and go, but there's a reason family-owned and operated U&I Furniture has been here for 95 years. Bring in your tax return. U&I has closeout prices on select mattress models, including some displays. On a budget and looking for a less expensive entry-level mattress? They have it. Want something more supportive to support more weight? U&I has that. Sleep cooler and sleep better on a copper memory foam mattress. U&I sells sheets from Bedgear, a cooler sheet to breathe. That's why there's always a better buy at U&I Furniture, downtown Logan.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Sievertson. Good news for anybody in the U.S. or overseas who needs goods that travel in or out of the busy port of Baltimore. At the Highway Bridge collapse site, Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
A temporary channel on the northeast side of the collapse opened earlier today. It will help us to get more vessels in the water around the site of the collapse.
Big abortion developments in Florida. State Supreme Court decisions enable a new 6-week abortion ban to take effect. And the court okays a voter referendum for this November's election to decide whether abortion rights are enshrined in the Florida state constitution. Convicted murderer Alex Murdaugh in South Carolina today is sentenced to 40 years for financial crimes, stealing millions from his clients. The CDC investigating a case of bird flu in a person in Texas. Rare. The first case linked to a cow. No evidence it spreads person to person. This is ABC News.
KBNU weather for tonight. Becoming mostly clear later on tonight. Low around 30. Sunny upper 50s tomorrow, and then sunny into the lower 60s on Wednesday. Right now we have 47 degrees at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue, dedicated to keeping your home safe and dry from minor repairs to complete roof replacement. RoofRescueUSA.com or call 435-999-4268. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl, bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Equity markets finished mostly lower to begin the second quarter after the S&P 500 gained 10% in the first 3 months of 2024. Leadership favored energy, technology, and communication services, which were the only sectors of the S&P 500 to finish the day higher. Overseas, Asian markets were mixed overnight following a stronger than expected manufacturing report out of China. On the economic front, the ISM Manufacturing Index returned to expansion, reading above 50 for the first time since 2022, with the March reading registering at 50.3. While improving manufacturing activity is positive for economic growth, the market reaction was cautious following today's reading, as accelerating growth could prevent inflation from falling and force the Fed to keep interest rates higher for longer. The Dow closed down 241 points at 39,567. The NASDAQ closed up 17 points at 16,397. The S&P 500 closed down 11 points at 5,244. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 4.32%, higher by 0.12 percentage points. The price of crude oil was up 75 cents at $83.92, and the spot price of gold was up $23.50 to $2,261.90. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
Spring. It's time to get those old rusted vehicles moved. Call DD Auto and Salvage and get paid for moving that old rusted out junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it easy and fast, paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. It is not often we talk about Beyonce here on the show.
At least once every three or 4 years or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's sort of...
or hardly ever.
That's right. It's been kind of fascinating to watch this play out today. I guess it was actually a few days ago that Beyonce released her latest album, and it is called Cowboy Carter, and it's country music with a Beyonce twist. Like she covers Dolly Parton's Jolene with the help of Dolly Parton, by the way, which is kind of cool. But it's very much an R&B track. It's got, that R&B sound and rhythm, which I thought was actually kind of cool to hear. There's a song that I don't know who the kid is and what the kid's relationship to Beyonce is, but there's a young, and it's got to be very young. I'm talking like 5-6 years old, based on the voice, young boy that sings a song called "Oh Louisiana," which is a old country song actually there's a debate over that song, if you're curious, between the country world and the blues world. Is that a blues song or a country song? And everybody claims it, but man, it's just the coolest song. So I enjoyed it. I listened to it knowing that I was going to bring this up on the show today, and I wanted to have at least a foundation. And I'll be honest, I'll say this right from the get-go, Beyonce, not really my thing. I'm a fan. She has some great songs. She deserves all the recognition she gets. Her talent is obvious as a pop artist and R&B artist, and she's gone back and forth between the two. She's dubbed Queen Bey, and I think she honestly deserves that as a prominent pop culture figure. But the music, just not really up my alley. So I enjoy it to listen to once. It's not something I would put on again. And I'm saying that because I'm about to really defend Beyonce, and I don't want anyone to think I'm just doing that because I'm a super fan. I think she's very talented, but I would prefer other styles of music.
She has people that really, really like her.
Yeah.
So.
But I'll be blunt. It's the way she sings. She sings. She sings a little bit. I just realized this. She sings a little bit like Willie Nelson. And Willie Nelson can be a challenge. He sings off. He's talked about it before. He does this on purpose. He sings just a little bit off of the beat on a song, and it's Willie's style.
Yeah,
and
I can kind of see that.
He actually named it. He came up with a name for it, and I can't remember now. Well, Beyonce does a similar thing, but hers is pauses.
5/4 Willie style.
Yeah. I think he did call it Willie style, actually. But yeah, listen to Willie Nelson and pay a lot of attention to the drums, to the bass and snare drum.
Because it's over here, and then Willie's kind of over here.
Yeah, and he's just a tiny bit off. And if you're in the mood for Willie Nelson, it's amazing. It's what makes him unique. And his voice, of course. But it can also be something that's unpleasant to listen to while you're driving or while you're very busy doing some other things. Beyonce is kind of the same for me. I like the style of music, the musical genre she's in. I'm a fan of that genre. But Beyonce has always kind of been one that I turn down because of the rhythm to her singing. She pauses and then comes back a little bit off from the beat. And she does it on purpose. And it's... for huge fans.
And if you're having a bad day, it's kind of like...
Yeah, it can be irritating.
Come on, get it straight.
Just sing the song for the love of...
Stay within the rhythm.
Yeah. So that all of this is to say, I'm by no means a Beyonce super fan. But watching some of the reaction today, online mainly, that has ranged from outright racism to, at best, a complete misunderstanding of the roots of country music has been really weird. Now, most of this has been on Twitter. And if you're not following the Twitter conversation, the conversation about Twitter, Elmo Musk has been in some... He's not popular right now among Twitter fans because of what he's done to the platform, which was basically bring back the bots and sort of ruin the blue check thing that was a way for actual journalists and celebrities to verify they were really them. Now anyone can get a blue check for $8, and then you're forced to see their stuff first. And I'll tell you, these aren't the brightest people sometimes. So it has definitely tainted the conversation on Twitter. That people who are willing to pay the $8 to get prominence in a Twitter comment thread are not necessarily the people who are, well, I'll put it this way. Some of those people aren't spending their $8 well, because you read their comment and think, you paid $8 a month so that more people would see you say that? But it's been really interesting because people have, some people have taken offense at what, so here's the argument I saw. You're all familiar, if you're not, I'll explain it briefly, the phrase cultural appropriation. This is when, and it's usually used as a criticism towards the dominant cultures, the majority cultures, white people who make up a majority of this country, for example. And there are some purists, maybe isn't the best word, but maybe it's not an inappropriate word to describe where I'm going with this. But there are some people who feel, and I'll be honest, I think some people take it too far. But there are some people who feel that it's disrespectful to a culture to appropriate some of that culture into your own on purpose, without recognition, without paying respects, without saying this is where it comes from. And some take it too far. Personally, I don't care that Scarlett Johansson played an ethnic minority in a movie. I don't care. On the flip side of that, I do think that when you have so many prominent Japanese actors and you get Tom Cruise to play a historical figure in a movie about the samurai, and people get mad at you for that, for passing over some well-known and very talented Japanese actors, I do think you deserve that criticism. Sure, it's Tom Cruise. That goes on the poster, maybe gets some more people in the theater, but it's also kind of hokey to put Tom Cruise in as this historical Japanese figure, right? So I think it can go too far. I think the people being upset when Scarlett Johansson played a minority in a film recently, I thought that was kind of silly. Because this wasn't a historical figure; it was a fictional character. It was a role that she tried out for. It wasn't written for her like the Tom Cruise samurai movie was. It was a role that she played very well, and maybe I'm a hypocrite, but that's what bubbled up on Twitter today around Beyonce. A prominent conservative op-ed writer. He used to work at a think tank. He used to do a TV show, but these days he's kind of retired. So he writes op-eds for conservative news sites and Wall Street Journal and more. And he said, listen to the new Beyonce album, and I don't understand how this isn't getting criticism for the cultural appropriation of country music. And, a lot of people responded, I think fair question, what culture are you talking about? And he proceeded to say, this is Beyonce. If some, he actually first, he tried to deflect. He said, if some white artist did this to, a famous black artist from history or black music, gospel music, for example, and recorded it, I think that person would be criticized. And maybe he's right. I would point out myself, this has happened a lot throughout musical history, country and otherwise, where you have, a white musician recording traditional black gospel songs, even some going back to the Civil War era. And I don't remember anyone getting super upset about that. But, okay, to his point, maybe people would get upset about that. Because there is a history of, black artists getting taken advantage of in the music world. Some very blatant stories like black artists who never got paid for the song they wrote that Elvis then made millions off of. It wasn't Elvis's fault. He didn't know. It was the publishers and the record company that cheated the black artist that wrote the song. Elvis just recorded it because it was made available to him, and then he got very rich, and no one ever heard of the guy or the woman who actually wrote the song. These are true stories. And so that has led to some people in communities of color, let's say, in the musical world, being a little sensitive to that. And I have, in my opinion, seen them go too far in, griping. I remember when everybody was mad that Eminem was doing well because he's white. Who cares? He's talented. I think Eminem, again, not my favorite style of music, although I actually do like quite a few Eminem songs. But I thought it was silly when there was kind of a movement against him because he was one of the first big white rappers. He's a tiny guy. He himself was not big.
Big in a figurative sense. In a money-making,
record sales kind of sense, song sales.
Is he is he small stature?
I think he's 5'6" or something. I remember reading. Yeah. But I thought that was silly to say, like, no, this is our genre. How dare you? No, no genre is any race or culture's genre. And that's exactly what happened today with this conservative figurehead. He's a thought leader, or was at a certain point. And he just tweeted it out. How is this not cultural appropriation? But what he got really wrong is the assumption that country music was tied in some way historically to white artists. And that's when I learned a whole bunch of things, because people started throwing links out left and right. And a lot of this I never knew. I knew of, and Bill, you probably know, I think it's actually the Carter family from the 1920s.
I don't really know a whole lot, but I do remember they were featured on Ken Burns' This Is Country.
Yeah, that's
special.
And they had a really distinctive sound, and they're referred to as sort of the first family of country music. And that's a fascinating special, by the way, if you get to see that Ken Burns special. But the Carter family, they themselves said they were influenced entirely by their getting a copy when some of the members of the family were very young even, of a black artist, Leslie Riddle, who was a black blues and gospel guitar player and a black culture folklorist. And they said that's where they got their inspiration from. And in fact, that's the singing style and the music style that they tried to mimic. Meaning no offense to the black artist, to Leslie Riddle. They just liked it, and they wanted to do something musically as a family. And so they kind of copied his style a little bit out of respect. But they became known as the first family of country. So there's an obvious, black artist influence on what most country music historians say was one of the first big hits in the country music world, the Riddle family. So I knew that story already, but man, I learned a lot today. Just some of the links that were thrown out to say, look, country music actually has a far more complex history. And here's where I'm going to leave things. I know I have some family members. I never listen to country music. It's not my style. And yet, they'll talk about being fans of blues music from the 1930s even, or Johnny Cash when he wasn't as country, or fans of modern singer-songwriters, more modern at least, Ray Charles and Bobby Womack. All of these people sort of influenced each other back and forth throughout the musical genre. And so my takeaway from all of this, watching this freak out today, watching some of the past freakouts, where I think those who, with good reason, are keeping an eye out for cultural appropriation, those who remember that, there have historically been black artists who were literally cheated by the industry. Well, a song that they wrote or originally produced was remade or recorded for the first time by a white artist who then got rich off of it, and they got nothing, not even a mention. I understand why that would make some people, pay close attention to this. That's fine and good. But my final takeaway from all of this, everybody needs to take a deep breath. This is a day of arguing on Twitter, and big names. People who write for the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, researchers at universities have gotten involved in this. Celebrities, famous political figures, elected leaders, lawmakers at the state and federal level, everyone got in on this today. Here's the thing, folks. Beyonce released a new album. It's got some country flair and themes to it. It's pretty good. If it's your thing, go enjoy it. Country music doesn't belong to anyone. Rap doesn't belong to anyone. Pop doesn't belong to anyone. How did we get this uptight? We'll be back right after this.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. We might have overdone it. We bought 2 truckloads of mattresses from Sealy, Sutherland, and Purple, and they're parked in front of our North Store and South Store right now. Help us blow these out. Queen beds that were $1,100, now $399. Twin mattresses, now $99. Buy them and take them, or have us deliver them. Financing available. Come buy these truckloads of mattresses only at My Mattress locations by Big 5 Sports and Red Balloon Toys. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally?
It's true.
Many of us spend more time thinking about what's for dinner than thinking about retirement. But if you think your retirement needs deserve more attention, Edward Jones agrees, and they can help. Together, they'll give your long-term retirement strategy the attention it deserves. Stop by your local Edward Jones office, one of 7 locations in Cache Valley. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Hey guys, this is Tyson Savage with Truck Ranch in Logan. With interest rates coming down, now is the best time to purchase your next truck. We offer on-site financing to make the buying process quick and easy. If you are a business owner that relies on a fleet of trucks to make you money, come see our great selection of hard-working trucks to help you succeed. We also offer on-site commercial financing to suit the needs of your business. We take trade-ins and always guarantee at Truck Ranch you will find better service, better prices, better trucks. In South Logan next to Walmart, or visit us online at truckranch.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Gary Sullivan from At Home with Gary Sullivan. I hope you can join us this weekend where we take calls about your home projects. Plus, got some great tips on patching your concrete, painting, fixing up the deck, and even increasing the curb appeal of your home. Really hope you can join us this weekend. There's a lot of great information to help you protect the biggest investment of your life. At Home with Gary Sullivan.
Saturday nights at 7 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
That's it for hour 1 of today's show. Coming up, a more fascinating and less irritating online argument from today. I've posted links to both of these on our show, on our Facebook page. Governor Cox has been sharing a lot from Jonathan Haidt. He writes for The Atlantic, and Jonathan Haidt has written a couple of books about social media, the internet, and lately he's been on a thing trying to highlight that he believes research shows it's rewiring teens' brains in a bad way. Researchers writing collectively at Nature magazine said basically Haidt is making a lot of assumptions, and they got into it, and it was fascinating, and we'll talk about it in hour 2 here on KVNU Logan.